Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are joining us from. My name is Akinola from the DigiConnect team, and we are excited to have you all participating today on this roundtable talking about cyber AI and ransomware in Africa, how to tackle the growing menace of ransomware attacks. Today's session is being hosted with our presenting partners, Blackberry, Grove, as well as MCB, Mauritius Commercial Bank, and we have experts and leaders from these organizations, as well from some of the leading entities in the region as well, that will be sharing their thoughts on the subject, and I believe this will be a very interesting session. Before we get into it, I will give some few housekeeping remarks, just to set a tone for the meeting. Please note that, depending on where you are, it's always great in this virtual environment to have the face-to-face engagement. Depending on where you are, if you're okay to put up your cameras, that is absolutely fine. If you can't, that is also fine. Our speakers will be putting up their cameras anyways. We would like to see their faces as because they'll be speaking to us. Also note that all participants are muted for the purpose of decorum, and of course to avoid background noises. And also note that we depend so much heavily these days on network. So sometimes network, can kind of break and we get out of calls. Please note that if you have any issue with your network, you can always join back multiple times, and we're able to admit you onto the call. And last but not the least, we want this to be as interactive as possible. We have a presentation session, and also have a panel discussion, and also an interactive Q&A session. We would like to, keep this very engaging as possible. Feel free to use the chat box to type in your question. And if you would like to say one or two things, we'll be happy to unmute you also to be able to share your thoughts. At this point, I would like to invite our first speaker for today. And that will be in the person of Sameh Sabri. I'm just going to bring the slide up. Sameh Sabri is the Sales Engineer Associate Principal for Blackberry, and he will be taking us in the initial session. Hi, Sameh. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. How are you?
Great. Thanks for joining. Over to you.
Of course. I'm great. Thank you very much. Let me share my screen. And should be good to go. Let me know once you see it.
Yes, your screen is live. Good to go.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. And I really want to spend in the next, let's say 20, 25 minutes between a couple of slides. And I also have a short demo to share with you. But before I start the topic around ransomware, I think we have been seeing a lot of ransomware recently more than ever. In fact, this is just a reminder of some of the headlines that made it to the news, that the ransomware hits hundreds of US companies, and a lot of people are saying that the government is under attack in different places. And the reason why we see this on the news, because we would never expect some of the largest governments in the world, some of the largest entities in the world getting breached. We always believe that those who have less security are the ones who are getting breached, or the ones who are actually unfortunate are the ones who get breached. But honestly, this has been not the case for a very long time. If you remember a number of pandemic attacks that we have seen during the Corona time, I know we're still at the Corona phase, but we're soon getting out of there. But there has been so many attacks happening on some of the largest organizations, including some of the security firms, services providers, security vendors, and ransomware has been really, really successful. And last but not least, this is a reminder that no one is too big or too small. We're not too far from the ransomware. I know I speak a lot of customers in the Middle East, a lot of customers in Africa, and sometimes they are under the impression that, hey, we are in the Middle East, not so many people are focused with us, or hey, we are in Africa, or I'm in West Africa, or South Africa, North Africa. We are not at the heart of the ransomware targets, but that's actually not true. A lot of the targets of ransomware is now actually scattered around the planet, and no one in specific is immune to that, and definitely no one in specific is not prone to having a ransomware attack. The question is, why do these attacks still run and happen every day? I don't think you would know any single customer. I don't think you would even know any single user on planet Earth that does not have an antivirus, that does not have a firewall, that does not have an IPS. Even your traditional operating systems today come with built-in antivirus, come in with built encryption and firewalls and native firewalls. Why are these attacks still super successful until today? I thought that the security business is evolving and changing and booming, and we hear a lot of these news every day that we are getting stronger and faster and better, and we can stop attacks in 15 minutes, in 10 minutes, in 1 day. We hear a lot about these amazing news, but in reality, this is not changing the world as we expect to see it. Fundamentally, the cybersecurity industry haven't changed so much. Yes, we became a lot faster, and yes, we became a lot stronger in terms of capabilities and power and the use of machines and the use of cloud and the use of high broadbands, but fundamentally you haven't changed. The cyber industry is really waiting for something bad to happen somewhere in order for the rest of the planet to act upon it. If you see any of the recent attack scenarios, what happened is, if you look at the SolarWinds attack, or if you look at the FireEye attack, or if you look at any of the attacks that happened recently, someone had to get compromised in order for the rest of the planet to A, know about the problem, B, start investigating, and C, getting more of those samples, doing their own triage, doing their own classifications. These compromised accounts had to get incident response people involved, had to get malware reverse engineers involved, and they had to sit down, work on indicators of compromise, work on indicators of attacks, work on a lot of use cases to actually build a newer product, a newer version of a product, a newer update of a product to be able to stop that attack if it comes back again. And as you can imagine, this is really time consuming. There's a big time disadvantage. It is impossible to scale. And the worst of all, that it requires a victim. Someone must fall down. Someone needs to get sick, God forbid. Someone needs to fall a victim in order for the rest of the planet to actually know about the problem and create a solution. In my opinion, more of a temporary fix to that problem. So we have been living on painkillers for so many years. We have not changed fundamentally how we should behave to stop cybersecurity problems or cybersecurity attacks. Instead, we've been living on painkillers. And this is why we really had to change. When you see a number of slightly less than 500,000 unique malware samples in every sunrise. And by the way, this is one of the most optimistic numbers I was able to find online. If you look at some of the more not very optimistic numbers online, they cross 1 to 1.2 million samples every sunrise. So you wake up in the morning, good morning, bonjour, sabah al khair, it depends on your language. You have at least 500,000 unique malware samples. With that in mind, with that number in mind, and with what we explained just right now of how the industry is waiting to see that in order to take some smarter actions, you could imagine why and how until today, until 2021, we see big names, big customers, big governments, a lot of users getting compromised every single day. And this is why we had to choose a different route. With Silence, this is my background, and now being part of Blackberry, the Silence AI engine was created to fix that problem, or to work on fixing that problem, to work towards closing that gap. We know that this can never fix 100% of everything. That's nearly impossible. However, we're getting closer to fixing the problem simply by using artificial intelligence and machine learning. You know what? Instead of waiting for a sample or an exploit or a payload or a connection to be made, let me create a machine learning model that will learn from you, that will learn from your engineers, that will learn from your researchers, that will learn from different parties, of course, according to your learning and training phases. But for us, we took a lot of samples, a lot of files for so many years. We've been doing that for more than 10 years. We've been collecting a lot of samples and teaching our models what makes something look good and what makes something look bad. What features of a file make something or make a file look good versus what makes it look bad. And this is really your highest probability of stopping unknown attacks or never seen before attacks. Because you know what? I'm not depending on a signature. I'm not depending on a heuristic rule. I'm not depending on an indicator of compromise. Instead, I'm really looking at the content of the file. I'm really looking at the actual DNA of the file. I'm really looking at the actual file. Does it look good? Yes. Okay, let it run. But hey, it has those features. It has those attributes. The file has these characteristics, and therefore, yeah, it looks bad, and don't let it run. Even if we have never, ever seen this before. And again, going back to the ransomware topic, I believe we have the greatest chance of stopping ransomware and the greatest chance of stopping never seen before ransomware. You know why? Because I'm not waiting for a signature. I'm not waiting for an IOC to stop a ransomware. Instead, I'm analyzing those ransomware files. And we'll speak a little bit more about what we do before the ransomware actually runs. But at this moment, I want you to imagine that we don't have a signature matching. We don't have a rule matching. Instead, we look at the actual content of a file. And just to give you a bit of an understanding, a bit of a background, if you look at that screen, and I wish we were able to put out like a poll in here of which one of these attack scenarios do you remember, and see how many people could answer that. But I'm sure a lot of people are looking at that screen right now and going, yeah, I know this one. I've seen this one, or I have experienced having this ransomware in my environment. I hope not. But I mean, these are some of the world's most devastating malware campaigns ever. If you remember WannaCry destroyed, I believe the number is like 500,000 endpoints in the first week or so. And the famous account that got compromised by WannaCry, the national health system in the UK, was really bad time. And a lot of people remember that time until today. Actually, I always say this when I speak about WannaCry. My father, who's 70 years old, bless him, called me on the day WannaCry was hitting the planet, and he's like, I read about WannaCry in the news. What is WannaCry? And by the way, my father is not a technology man. He read that over like newspapers, like hard copy newspapers, and this is how public it made it with WannaCry and the breach that a lot of people have seen. Petya, not Petya. A lot of these ransomware campaigns were very popular. Wasted Locker, that was really, really bad. It hit the Garmin company, the navigation company, the navigation system, the GPS provider around the world. That was Wasted Locker. And last but not least, if you remember the dark side that we spoke about, where the US government had to pay millions and millions of dollars to get their data back for the fueling pipeline, the Colonial Fuel Pipeline. With all of these campaigns, you would see a small number down in there. And if you're wondering what does that number mean, this was at that time our predictive advantage against that malware campaign. So for example, when WannaCry came in 2017 and hit the planet and lost and took away like 500,000 endpoints from the planet, our customers, our users, our partners who did not perform a single update for more than 2 years, 2 years, 24 months, we're still protected against WannaCry. It gets even better when you look at something like the dark side that came in the last few weeks, when the whole world was suffering from dark side and governments were suffering from dark side. Our customers who did not perform a single update for more than 67 months were still protected against the dark side. So again, does that mean we're bulletproof? But no, nothing is 100%. But if you have a chance, and if someone has a chance to stop ransomware, it's going to be an AI-driven approach. It's going to be an ML-driven approach. And I believe we have the best AI and mathematical models in the market. Remember when I said earlier that I really want to talk to you about what happens when there's a ransomware? A lot of us just remember the ransomware execution. And a lot of us believe that, hey, if I do have a good backup, I'm good to go. I'm done. Even if ransomware comes tomorrow, I'm going to restore back an old backup and I'm good to go. Yeah, that was maybe effective a few years ago, but today it's quite different. You know, when you actually see the ransom happening in the background, or the execution happening in the background, or the actual encryption of those files happening in the background, that's not the starting point. That's actually the ending point. So what we have learned, and I took this from our incident response experts, who I learn a lot from on every single day. There are so many steps and there's so many attack phases that ransomware threat actors are using, which makes it really, really difficult if you're not ready for it, and actually makes it slightly more understandable. Of course, it can be a lot more understandable if you're prepared and if you have the right tools and the right people supporting you at all time. But if you look at ransomware attack flows, right now you see that there is a lot of time spent in gaining initial access. And once an initial access is gained, you start, stealing credentials, you start moving internally, you started doing your own reconnaissance, trying to elevate your permissions, trying to actually do some staging, and then take copies of customers' data or take a copy of someone's compromised data and send it outside and try as much as possible. The ransomware groups are smart enough. So when they gain access, they don't make noise. They move very, very quietly around the environment. Actually, they don't encrypt your data at all until A, they have a copy of everything, B, they destroy every other copy you have in the environment, because they learned, right? And that's their business. To stay in business, you need to pay. To stay in business, they want to make sure that you have to pay the ransom. So what do? They stay stealthy, they stay quiet, they do traditional, normal looking things for quite some time until they take your data, the copies of your data, and destroy anything that can actually help you retrieve that data back, including disaster recovery sites, including other copies that you keep somewhere else, including offline, online, cloud, whatever. And once they know for a fact that, hey, we got everything under cover, under control, they execute the ransomware and actually do an extortion, or even sometimes double extortion. By that, I mean, they tell you, you need to pay us X to get your money back, or X plus Y in order to get the money back, and to get your data back, and with us not exposing you or not selling your data over the internet. So again, for those who believes that we might be capable of doing some ransomware behavioral analysis, or I'm going to connect my SIM solution and my other user solutions to see when some files are getting copied, or sometimes some files are getting changed, or some files are getting renamed in a small period of time. I'm gonna know that this is a ransomware and I'm gonna stop it. Yeah, think twice, because the moment you detect that is the moment you know that the data is already gone and the data is encrypted. That becomes really, really too late. So again, of course, understanding all of these attack flows and understanding all of these milestones would help you prepare to look at what could possibly happen in an initial access stage, credential theft and internal reconnaissance. And definitely, while I believe that ransomware execution is one of the final stages, and that's still really, really important, and having ways and tools to help you do that is something that is, in my very humble opinion, priceless. So where's the good news? How can we help you? Before we jump into a quick demo, the good news is we help you in multiple ways. Blackberry Protect, formerly known as Silence Protect, is an AI-driven cybersecurity solution that has been really stopping ransomware for an entire decade today. If, and I will say this with full confidence, if someone has the power and if someone has the chance to stopping ransomware pre-execution before damage or loss, it's going to be Protect. It's going to be Blackberry Protect. We've been developing generations of machine learning model that can actually predict how bad things would look like. Remember dark side. When the world got compromised, when governments got compromised, an outdated version was 70 months ahead of a predictive advantage, we were able to stop the dark side. But what if I want something more? What if I want to actually look at those attack flows that you just mentioned around ransomware, like from initial access and lateral movement and privilege escalation and data exfiltration? This is where we give you Optics. Optics is your AI-driven approach, your preventative approach to detection and response. By giving you more eyes, more ears, more contextual engine and contextual analysis, by giving you more dynamic approach to seeing and questioning every running process, every connection that is made, every DNS record, every registry change, we have a solid chance of detecting ransomware even before it tries to encrypt the data, or even before it tries to copy itself and actually expand in the environment. All right, so we have the best tools, we have the best engines, we have the best technology. But you know what? I'm a small customer. I'm an SMB. I only have 2 gentlemen in the IT and a lady in the CISO office. I cannot run detection response program. We just don't have it. Yeah, the good news is we have Guard. Guard is our managed detection response team. So actually we can help you build that into your environment. We can help you with the deployment, configuration, hardening. We can help you with 24/7 monitoring. We can help you with 24/7 threat hunting. So while we believe that Protect is the best technology to stop ransomware, and Optics does a phenomenal job in detecting the different attack stages of a ransomware, in case you don't have internal skills or internal power, or you don't have enough time, or your team is too busy, our own experts can help you 24/7. Last but not least, and let's say, God forbid, you're under attack and you're not using any of our technologies, you're not using Protect, Optics, you're not using Guard. We do have a 24/7 IR team experts waiting for your call, waiting for a request, waiting for you to raise a concern. We hope that you don't use this service, but we do have the best in class IR experts in the market. And I believe that could be a question during the panel discussions that we can help you with. Let me stop here for just a second so I could shift very, very quickly to my other screen and show you how we stop things in real life. And I hope the other one comes back online. 1 second. So let me share my entire screen instead. I hope you can see my screen now. Anyone can confirm?
Yes. Yes, we can.
Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. So I have this beautiful guy smiling in the background. I hope you could see him. And I really want to take 2 examples today. One, and by the way, these are real wild-caught malware samples. And to prove that, I'm going to use like third-party websites just to give you a real evidence that I'm using genuine malware samples today. And I want to take an old one and a newer one. And I have my reasons for that. I'm going to share them with you in a minute. So for example, if I'm going to take a new one, so I have a number of attack scenarios. I have, let's say, the dark side. I'm going to take a copy of that over here. And just to prove that this is actually the dark side ransomware, let me show you on something like VirusTotal or something, just that this is, you know, the dark side ransomware that you heard about. That was basically the one that hit the US government, the fuel, the colonial fuel pipeline. And as you can see, it is the dark side, dark side, dark side, dark side. Sometimes, as people call it, just malware. But again, as you can see here, dark side is written in a lot of places. And right now we are looking at 53 out of 69 companies knowing that this is dark side and stopping it. Fair enough. And I have another machine that is, in my opinion, a lot more interesting. And I hope you can still see my screen. But this machine is much more interesting because of a number of reasons. Number one, I hope you can see this, it's really small, but it is running a 2015 model. So while we are in 2021, we are running a 2015 model on this machine. And I'm gonna keep this at all times so you could actually see it. And if you look at the resources I'm currently taking from the environment, right now I'm taking 38 megabytes, which is nothing. It's ridiculously nothing, 38 megabytes of RAM. So I know, and I've been an antivirus user for so many years, antivirus companies intend to actually eat a lot of their resources, take a lot of computing power. Right now, I'm taking less than 40 megabytes of RAM. That's maybe like, I don't know, 5 pictures on your iPhone or 4 pictures on your iPhone, nothing. It's really, really, really nothing. So 2015 model and running on very, very low resources. As we speak, the machine is actually connected online. However, let me disconnect it so you could actually see for a fact that I am not doing any cloud lookups. I am not, let me just show you how if I'm connected or not, google.com. So right now, as you can see, I'm connected. However, I want to disconnect that, and I'm gonna disconnect this live right in front of you. And I'm gonna put this machine offline. And the reason why I put it offline, because when you speak to a lot of the respectable vendors, a lot of respectable security players, they tell you, yeah, we can help you stop ransomware, stop attacks. We can push a lot of updates. We can do cloud intelligence. Yeah, what if you're not cloud connected? What if your users are offline? Or what if there's a network issue? For us, I want to prove that the entire decision-making happens offline, even when the machines are not connected to other console, even when there is no cloud connectivity. I don't care, because the machine learning model lives on the actual endpoint. So what do we see here? We see an offline machine without a single update for more than 6 years, running on very, very humble resources. And with all of that, I'm taking less than 40 megabytes of RAM. I'm gonna take the same exact example that I took from the dark side, the one I have shown you and demonstrated earlier, that the whole world knows as of today that this is actually the dark side ransomware. And I'm gonna pull that window on top here so you could actually see what happened. The moment I dropped the ransomware on the machine, the agent, which is running in the background, detected that there's something new. And our file watcher looked at what has been newly added to the system. And immediately you saw a small spike on the CPU utilization saying, hey, there's something that we need to scan. And just before I finish my sentence, the malware got automatically quarantined. Wait a second, this malware came exclusively a couple of months ago, a few weeks ago. And this is a 2015 model. How did that happen? And you look at the computing power, look at the CPU utilization, look at the memory utilization. Nothing has changed. This is genuinely the power of using artificial intelligence and machine learning. We are not restricting our capabilities to a database of hashes, to a database of bad IPs, to a database of bad names, bad domain, bad DNS records, or indicators of compromise. We are not looking at cloud lookups. We are not in a need of uploading this malware to a sandbox or to a network analysis tool. No. Even when the machine is offline, even when I'm running behind an update, and don't get me wrong, I'm a security guy. I want you to be always up to date. But if you are behind updates, that does not necessarily mean the end of the world. And we were able to quarantine the virus, the ransomware that destroyed governments, the most advanced government in the world, pre-execution before any damage or loss, using a 6 or 7 years old model. The last question and the last use case I want to demonstrate with you is simply something I hear a lot from a lot of my friends, customers, and partners in the region, and honestly all around the world. But you know what, Sammy, we think you're right. We think this is cool. We think this is awesome. I spoke to my security provider, and he or she promised me that if the dark side comes back, we'll be ready and we'll be protected. You know, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. You know, they promised me that if a ransomware comes back, if a piece of malware comes back, we're going to be ready and we're going to be prepared. It was a mistake. Well, I know the intentions are good. The reality is quite different. You see, I'm going to take an example that is really, really old. So I'm going to take WannaCry, and I'm guessing everyone on this call knows WannaCry, and I'm uploading WannaCry to VirusTotal again, just to prove that this is a real malware, not something I made up today. So as you can see, it says WannaCry, WannaCrypter, WannaCry, WannaCrypt. So you know that this is actually the ransomware WannaCry that the whole world knows. I'm going to put some makeup on that WannaCry version. And I promise you, I'm not a malware author. I'm far from being even a dangerous guy. I'm just a guy who knows how to download free tools from the internet. So I am going to use WannaCry here and put some makeup on it. I'm going to change how it looks like. So for example, we could change an icon. We could change the how it looks to other people. Let me choose a nice, a nice colored icon. And as you can see, I am not doing anything fancy. There are so many options to press. There are so many changes to do. I am not doing any of that. I am mimicking a script kiddie who is actually still living in his parents' basement. And that's it. Let me just save a new one. I'm going to call this, you know, GME Africa, for example, just a new name. And what do we have here? What do we have here? We have WannaCry that the whole world knows. And we have, let me give you another more up-to-date website. So we have WannaCry that the whole world knows, and I'm going to upload this again so you could actually see it again on UpSWAT, which gives you more updated version of those antivirus engines and anti-malware engines and so on and so forth. So I have uploaded this file, and as you can see, it's 30 out of 35 detections and 10 out of 10 malicious activity. If my respectable competitors are actually saying the truth, I would want to see 30 out of 35, and I want to see at least 10 out of 10 malicious detection, right? Because it's WannaCry, but with a different icon. It's genuinely nothing but WannaCry with a different look. It's WannaCry with some makeup on. So I'm going to upload the same file here again, the same file that has a different look right now to the same website that just told me that it is actually 30 out of 35, and 10 out of 10. Can you see the number and how it changed? In just a second, someone who has no malware writing experience using an available tool from the internet was able to drop the detections to almost, I don't know, 40%. I don't just want to say a number, but we dropped the detections from 30 companies to 20, and from 10 out of 10 to 0 out of 10 with just a couple of clicks. So when someone tells you, hey, we learned from the mistakes of the past, don't worry, push the new update, do the new upgrade, and then you're going to be good to go. I want you to think about that again and again, because fundamentally that does not fix the problem. And to prove that we do have an edge, to prove that we do have a fix to this problem, I'm going to take this machine and I'm going to take this piece of malware that we just created, and I'm going to go back to this 2015 model. And as you can see, this was just created right now. This is not a recorded demo. This is not something I have done yesterday. This was just done right now on August 18, 1:33 p.m., which reminds me I only have 1 more minute. And I'm going to take this piece of malware, drop it to the machine. Remember, the machine is offline. I'm not connected to any cloud service, no cloud intelligence. I am using a 6-year-old version of our software, and prior to any execution, that 2021 version of WannaCry that every other company that we saw a while ago all of a sudden realized that it might be clean, got automatically quarantined pre-execution before any damage or loss, before compromising the user experience, without taking memory, without taking any CPU utilization. I'm going to stop here, and I'll be more than happy to take any of your questions, whether right now, later on in the chat. Thank you very much for having me, Aki. This is back to you.
Thank you very much, Samuel, for that very passionate presentation. Thanks for the case study and demo as well. There are a lot of conversation going on in the chat box. I'm sure you'll be able to check some of them out and respond. But there is one that kept being highlighted, and I want you to maybe kind of quickly speak to that. There is the talk about false positives when it comes to AI deployment for cybersecurity, ransomware, and all of that. Is there something you would like to say
Absolutely, absolutely. So when someone asks me about false positives, I do 2 things typically. One, what is a false positive? And again, that's not going to be a philosophical way of answering the question, I promise you. But what is a false positive? For me, the definition of a false positive, if let's say I tell you that your Microsoft Outlook is a malicious application, and yeah, that could be a false positive, right? Because Microsoft Outlook is a legitimate application. But when you tell me that, hey, I downloaded this, a process explorer tool, and it's unverified, unsigned, and it requires an administrator to write it, and it can look into every running process and inject itself into every running process. Hey, I'm using this for a good reason. This is a false positive. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not a false positive when it's doing something malicious. I had a customer the other day telling me that we bought a lot of new keyboards from somewhere, and the Protect is saying that the keyboard software is actually malicious. Well, it's a keyboard. Yeah, you have a kernel driver that's recording every keystroke that your entire company is using, unverified, unsigned, untrusted by Microsoft or any manufacturer. Why would you not think this is truly something malicious? So we need to genuinely understand the difference between false positives and acceptable risk into the environment. You could tell me, Sam, I'm using this free tool. It keeps on giving me pop-ups. It keeps on giving me ads. It fixes my problem today. I cannot buy the full version. Can I safe list this application? I'll tell you, we can safe list the application. You accept the risk, I'm going to safe list the application. So In this case, this is not, in my opinion, a false positive. But the second question I would like to ask the lady or the gentleman who asked this question, what about false negatives? Yeah, we hear this a lot of time from antivirus companies. Hey, AI might generate a false positive. While the false positive ratios are minimal, you're speaking about 0.00, it's like really, really, really minimal. I asked other endpoint security vendors and other antivirus companies, yeah, so we might have a tiny false positive, maybe. What about your false negatives? What about stopping the unknown? Yeah, if you know the attack, you're going to stop it without a lot of problems. Again, that is debatable, by the way. People do mistakes, but that is still debatable. However, what about the false negatives? What do you do about attacks that you have never seen in your life or never seen in the past? I would love to see an answer to that one day.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to quickly jump in on that one and show the audience one slide here. Let me pull that up quickly. So to reinforce what Samo was saying, I think it's quite important that you understand as well that we have the longest time spent researching AI and ML capabilities for cybersecurity, because Silence really invented the space. Oh, sorry, my camera is not on. Let me quickly fix that. Okay, I can't go out of the screen, but I'll do it later. So we have a significant lead over competitors in this regard, and we do have patterns that even if we are to make a mistake or have a false positive or even a false negative, we have a solution that does not require us to retrain the entire model, because retraining a model is not an easy task. You also have verification and backtesting to do. So this can take multiple months because the data quantity is so huge. If you look at the process, and Sama went over it, but if you visualize what the process looks like, you start with a collection of unknown files that eventually get grouped based on features, and then you have a cutoff point between a score that the file is given to say, okay, it's malicious or it's non-malicious. And because we have hundreds of millions of malicious files and non-malicious files, when something new appears, automatically we extract features, and that happens on the endpoint, as Sama was saying, and we can say, I don't know what this is, but hey, this looks or resembles this group of files really closely. And because this is our 7th generation of model, so the first model was released in 2014, we've gotten really good at doing this. But as I said, let's imagine that that zero-day malware that we have up there, somebody comes back and says, well, like the example that Sama said, hey, this is my keyboard, it's valid, and these are the reasons why it's a valid software. Typically, like I said, we would need to retrain the model, and all of our competitors would need to retrain their model. We own the patent to, let's say, visualize it this way, put a net around that little dot on the right and drag it arbitrarily to any other scoring location. So we have a means of correcting these type of things. And when I look at internal statistics of how often this happens, it's extremely rare. It's extremely rare, because the thing you need to really understand is that we don't have a signature. We can't publish a signature to say, oh, let's quickly correct XYZ mistake in this regard. So the product has to be accurate. And I hope that provides you some more context.
Thank you very much, Roger, for adding that bit. I'm going to move on straight into our panel session now. We have been keeping our speakers on. Thanks, Sammy, once again for your session. I would like to invite our moderator for the session, and that's in the person of Metal Balas. Metal is a Senior Enterprise Account Manager for Blackberry She will be moderating this session. On the panel discussion, we do have Joylyn Curry, who is the Principal Cybersecurity Assurance Officer from Safaricom. We have Roger, who just spoke, from Blackberry. We also have, sorry, 1 second. Okay, we have Patrice F., Head of Technology SBU, the Mauritius Commercial Bank. And we also have Eric Williams-Holmes, who is the Group Information Security Manager for Let's She Go. And finally, Dennis Fry, Global Account Director for Grove. I would like to pass it now to Metal. Metal, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay,
hello,
great.
everyone, and thank you again for joining our Cyber AI and Ransomware event. My name is Meital Balas, and I'm the Senior Enterprise Account Manager for Africa, Israel, and Turkey at Blackberry. Sami, what can I say? Like always, your demo was phenomenal. I trust our audience find it very interesting from one end, but a bit concerning from the other. Concerning from the fact of how simple and easy you can manipulate respectful endpoint solution with a tweak or some makeup, like you said, of a well-known harmful ransomware. As we all just saw in live, the Blackberry Protect solution based on AI and machine learning engines. No signatures, no hashes, no heuristic rules, just AI and machine learning techniques can truly protect your organization where others, let's say it, fail. Hope you all have a peaceful sleep tonight. And if you have concerns because of what you all just saw, don't worry, we have enough silence and a bit of Sami for everyone. Saying that, let's move to a short intro to our respectful panelists. Ladies, first, of course, Miss Joylyn Curry. I hope I pronounce it well, the Principal Cybersecurity Assurance Head of Safaricom. Safaricom is a potential customer, and Joylyn kindly agreed to share with us some of her deep knowledge in cybersecurity. Hello, Joylyn, and thank you for joining. From the wonderful Mauritius Island, we have Mr. Patrice F., the Head of Technology at MCB, Mauritius Commercial Bank. MCB is one of our great leading customers that choose Blackberry UEM to protect and manage their mobile environment. Thank you, Patrice, for joining us.
Thanks,
we
Michelle,
also
and thanks for not saying old customer.
Old and precious for me, as you know. We also have Mr. Eric Williams-Holmes, the Group Information Security Manager at Let's-Go, a big financial customer in Botswana. Eric led the process of choosing a new progressing endpoint solution a year ago, and he will share with us, I hope, his experience and thoughts regarding the decision and why silence. From the Blackberry side, you just heard the fantastic Mr. Roger Sales, the VP Solutions of EMEA. And last but not least, Mr. Dennis Fry, the Global Account Director at Grove. For those of you who are still not familiar with Grove, and I'm saying still, Grove is one of our leading partners in the region. To be honest, Grove is our unique Emerald partner in Africa with lots of knowledge and experience in Blackberry solutions. So again, thank you all for willing to share your experience and thoughts with our great audience today. I would like to start with you, Eric. As an expert in your domain with years of experience, I'm sure you've seen a lot of threats, attacks, solutions, etc. almost a year ago, during the most challenging time of the COVID pandemic, you took a very brave decision to move your endpoint environment into silence. We all can agree this is not an easy decision to take in normal days, and especially during lockdown. Can you please share with our audience what helped you choose BlackBerry Silence over the other market leaders solution you perform POC with? What values you've seen gain from Silence versus the other solutions you tested?
Okay, so basically, before we during that lockdown period, we had another legacy solution, a traditional solution, and what we realized, because of the updates, there were systems on our network, update servers, to which all our PCs had to talk, and then lockdown caused everybody to start working from home. They couldn't see the update service unless they were on VPN. Many people didn't need to go on VPN anymore. So many systems didn't get the updates, and we started experiencing some virus issues. So we had to look around for something that was cloud-based. And that's when we started looking at quite a few different vendors, some EDR, some traditional antivirus vendors, and then also BlackBerry. So I think what happened was that we met with Sammy, and then Sammy, all gung-ho, showed us how we could find viruses and new viruses using real viruses with BlackBerry. And then we decided, okay, to test the efficacy of all the systems, we're going to do exactly the same tests, and we pulled in hundreds of viruses onto all the systems, and then we tested to see whether which system would perform the best. And what we found is that BlackBerry performed the best by far, by a hell of a lot. So that sort of showed us, okay, this is probably a good solution from finding viruses standpoint. But then we also tested our team because we had a new SOC team at that stage. And they were already snowed under with a lot of new products. So we thought, okay, maybe let's see if EDR will work in this newly formed SOC team, whether they'll be able to cope with it as well. And what we found was that it was very difficult for them to actually use any form of EDR. So I think at that stage, we were already convinced that we should go for Protect, but we weren't convinced on optics yet because of the EDR component. But when you brought in the Guard solution, that's looked like a good option. And after now running with Guard about a year, we found that it really is an excellent option, because what Guard does is they do all the EDR on our behalf, and then they will contact our team through the dashboard with about 2 or 3 events per day. That is very easy for our SOC team then to go investigate and handle. So I think that is the things that BlackBerry brought to the party. Number one, best efficacy. Number two, they had a solution in Guard to assist us with the issues that we had, because we had a newly formed SOC team who couldn't cope with all the new tools, and that solution really works very well. And then number three is also just the support that we got from both you and Sammy during the procurement phase. And you were always understanding, and we found that from BlackBerry, you guys were trying to help us to build a solution, not to sell us a product.
Thank you so much for saying that, Eric. For those of you who are not familiar with Guard, Guard is our 24/7 managed detection and response service that can manage on your behalf this silence environment. In one sentence, Eric, what will be your golden advice, your 10 cents to share with potential customers that are considering to gain more detection and prevention capabilities from their current endpoint environment?
You want one sentence? I can do it one
Yeah.
word: BlackBerry.
Oh, okay. Indeed, a great advice. I couldn't summarize it in a better way, Eric. Thank you so much. I would like to move to Patrice. Patrice, 3 years ago, you chose BlackBerry UEM solution to protect and manage MCB's mobile environment. UEM is a different great solution by BlackBerry, which we would like to expose with our audience today. Can you please share the main use case for BlackBerry UEM and why you chose BlackBerry over the competition?
Sure. Hi everyone. So it's a very similar story actually as what Eric was mentioning. We did a cybersecurity risk assessment a few years ago to check what was our posture around cybersecurity across all our endpoints. And we saw that basically we were having a weak link in a way with our mobile device management. We were using, I would say, kind of legacy platform for that, but at the same time, our number of devices were multiplying. Phones, smartphones, tablets. And we felt the need to do something on that, and so RFP process, selection process, BlackBerry process, and then 3 years later, here we are.
Thank you so much. I have another question for you, Patrice.
Sure.
Security is very important, but user experience, some will say, is much more important. How do you balance those two in BlackBerry UEM?
Well, that's true. User experience, and for once in that case, it's not about customer experience; it's about user experience, and it's very important because those devices we are talking about are used by our management, our board members. Our sales guys, our guys in the network that are directly facing customers. So for them, I mean, more than security, what they need is a platform that is very easy to use, very simple to use, that is very reliable. That they can use 24/7. So all those aspects for us were very important, and actually, to some extent, were even more important than just security. But I think with BlackBerry, we found the good, I would say, mix between security on one side, and what we have seen in the last minutes is definitely quite impressive. So it was a good mix between security and at the same time simplicity for our users.
It's very powerful to hear from active customers that BlackBerry solutions can balance effectively between security and user experience. Thank you so much, Patrice. And Eric and Patrice, I must share with everyone here that I was blessed to have great, intelligent customers such as MCB and Letijo. Customers that understand the reality and risk and do not afraid or hesitate to take brave decisions to protect their organization from the threats. Thank you both again for choosing BlackBerry.
Thanks, Peter.
Jolene, hey, I'm keen to hear from you. How can organizations prepare and prevent cyber attacks in this new normal?
Okay, thank you very much, Maytel. So I'll put it in a point form, especially for the main way where a ransomware is delivered, you'll find is through executables. You'll find people just download software that they're not very keen on, and probably it has a ransomware embedded. And one of the other ways of delivering ransomware that's quite common is through emails, through phishing emails. I'll give an example of this ransomware that was delivered through phishing emails that back in 2016, Loki. So Loki was a ransomware that encrypted more than 160 file types that was spread through means of fake emails with infected attachments. So you find that users clicked on those attachments and those links, and they were able to, the endpoints were encrypted. So that was quite common in 2016. And then you'll find that another one that's quite common was ransomware, was WannaCry. WannaCry affected around 230,000 computers worldwide, and it brought about, I think, loss of around $4 billion cumulatively. Like, it was quite something, but this one encrypted like the whole drive. So one way that we can use to prevent ransomware in your organization is to educate your users not to click links that they're not aware of in their email. One way is through user awareness. You have to do a proper user awareness. I know we're all fallible humans. We just click links whenever we see them. So we just have to educate our users as much as possible. At least they can hover around the links and see what link it's taking them to. But if they're not keen on the sender, they shouldn't just click on links that they're not sure of. Another way is to scan emails for malware. At least organizations should put in place a mechanism where, at least to protect their staff, they need to put mechanisms in which at least malware is protected from emails. We also have to put protection on firewalls and endpoint protection. So in the event that someone has downloaded a software, and at least it should prevent them from installing that particular software at all costs. As they said, for AI-driven endpoint protection,
second question for you. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yes, it checks for baseline of behavior, unlike antiviruses which check for signature. So in that case, it's quite important at least to have endpoint protection that's also AI-driven. So at least to prevent these kinds of ransomwares that are zero-day or that are outside the normal behavior scope. You also have to be very keen in keeping current database data backups. Be it for your work station or be it for your personal use. Make sure you have your data backups as regular as possible. In the event that ransomware that you're compromised, there are either two ways you can do. Yeah, you can either roll back to your backup, or you can pay the ransomware attacker to get the key to decrypt your data. But in that case, it's usually almost impossible. So in this case, it's always recommended at least to use your current data backup. But it's quite important as well not to synchronize your data, because you don't know when that ransomware was delivered. So because you will roll back to a backup, and you're not so sure if that backup was already infected. So you have to do thorough check on your backups as well, just to make sure that that ransomware is not available before you're storing your backup. And then my last point would be to protect your information as much as possible. Don't go around giving a lot of information, because you find people are exposing so much information, maybe through social media, through phishing, through social engineering, and all this can be used to target you. I'll get the other example that I gave, the Loki ransomware. I can be able to know to customize a particular email very well to be very friendly to you. You look at it and you like, this one looks very real, because I've done a bit of social engineering. So you have to protect your information as much as possible. Over to you, Mitan.
Thank you, Jolene, for opening our eyes with your point of view for those important points. I could spend hours with you for a deeper discussion, but unfortunately, we don't have the time for that today. But I might ping you for a dedicated private session, if that's okay. Thank you, Jolene. Thank you so much. Dennis, growth has been a major catalyst lately for some great opportunities and significant wins in the African market. With a number of next-gen technologies already in the marketplace, why did Grove decide to partner with BlackBerry as their solution of choice?
Hey, Myrtle. Yeah, no, thanks for that question. And I think we could probably just probably replay Sammy's live demo to help answer that question, to be honest. No, but truth be told, we like a good story at Grove. And Cylance for us was ticking that box, talking about going back into the message that that Sammy brought in earlier, just a bit of a backstory with BlackBerry acquiring Cylance back in 2019. And again, I think it was a cool $1.4 billion cash, right? So we're not talking about a small amount of change here. But yeah, I mean, for us, it was having two of the execs that were sitting on the McAfee board who are trying to turn things around and getting McAfee, to go the next gen way, using AI machine learning, wasn't really getting the traction that they wanted, making that bold step and moving away and, starting their own company like Cylance. And, just to show how, the strength to strength that it grew, where, like I said, BlackBerry came around and saw that opportunity where they knew that they had to, get into the market, go in with a really good technology. And, we saw that as an opportunity for us to expand our ever-growing stack of security offerings to our customers. A solution that was focused on disrupting the standard approach in your endpoint security landscape. And Cylance is certainly making some wow factor claims in its technology. Things we heard in Sammy's presentation, and truth be told, it was doing everything on the 10, right? So, however, the hardest part that we've come to this point is not actually choosing the technology, but it's rather, especially in the beginning, is convincing businesses, especially in the beginning, that the traditional base signature solutions are just not working, right? That goes back to Roger's point. Signatures are so obsolete in the sense that it cannot keep up to today's constant change and evolving threats in the landscape. So, for us, we're selecting that product and actually testing it in the market and actually showing that it actually does work. And an example for me would be, how email security started, right? When people were doing email security, they were taking, again, your traditional way of doing things by having something sit on your server, making sure it's been scanned at the server level, etc. Then came managed services, right? The managed services where everybody is now outsourcing all the email security to third parties. So in other words, your email has been scanned by, providers like Mimecast and Proofpoint, etc. Nothing really sits on site and client server side anymore. And that's where, the way that Endpoint is going as well. People are slowly but surely coming around to understanding that the threats threats in today's landscape is evolving at such a pace that, you know, they've got to have this next gen tech in place to accommodate these companies that are always now, especially with you know, COVID, you know, taking grounds of people, need to change the way that they work. And unfortunately, your traditional, you know, work from an office is no longer applies. So, you know, you need something that's cloud-based. You need something that's, you know, that's not going to be dependent on, sorry, it's going to be cloud-based. It's not dependent on any kind of the signature updates. It's a lightweight application. Again, everything that speaks again to Sami's, you know, presentation. So, yeah, in short, that's the answer to us.
Like I always say, sophisticated attack requires sophisticated solutions. And I believe that BlackBerry is the best sophisticated solution in the market today.
If I can jump in, I think we have a poll that we need to launch before we end the program. If I can just for a minute, if I can launch that now. Yeah, for the participants to participate. So I'm launching it now. I hope you can see my screen. So just 3 quick questions. If you could please drop in your answer, how it relates to you in your cyber environment, and some of the interests, and you know, what is much more important to you from the 3 questions that we have. So thank you for participating. I will leave it for like a minute for you to just click. Thanks for putting in your thoughts. So the first one is on the areas of cyber security, cyber risk and cyber defense strategy. Which one do you think is much important for you when it comes to ransomware attacks? And the other one is on using an ML or AI in cyber defense tool, if you know, yes or no. I see a lot of yeses. And the last one is also a bit related to ML and AI, but in terms of you know, investment, where you will be keen to invest. Thank you for
participating. Okay, may I say one last thing?
Yes,
from my side. Like I always say to my potential customers, don't trust us, test us. Okay. In previous vendors I used to work for, we try to avoid POCs as we were concerned from the results. In BlackBerry, just the opposite. We encourage our potential customers to perform POCs. As we know, we are going to shine above the others. So please, if you have a need, a requirement, if you have concerns, you are going to have nightmare after Sami's demonstration today, please contact us. And let's start a POC so you can see with your own eyes why BlackBerry is the best solution in the market. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you very much, Metal. So I will be closing the poll now, and then I will share the result just for everyone to see what it looks like. I think we can all see now. We see endpoints/servers, you know, for the first question, and I think yes for the second question, and I think the last one also speak for itself. So I will pass it back to Metal for the last round of question, so that before we call it a day. Back to you, Metal.
Okay, so I would like to add Mr. Roger for the discussion. Before for my last question, to be honest. Roger, as an advisor of CISOs with more than 20 years of experience, I'm sure you have, and you've seen almost everything, and you have lots of insights. After what we've all heard and seen today, and we tried to bring some different angles. We heard current customers, a potential one, a partner. What do you have to add to the BlackBerry silent story? What is the message you want our audience to take from this session?
Sure. Thank you, Metal. And yeah, first I want to thank our partners, our customers, and the team, and of course our audience for the time today. I didn't get the chance earlier. Coming to the question, I think we need to take a step back. So we are a technology vendor, and I do understand we also have, let's say, technologists and security experts on the line. And as experts, we always have a tendency to dig in and to look at the technology. Now, the major challenges in cybersecurity are not technology related. They will be relating to your culture. They will be relating to the maturity and whether you have a certain capability. When I was a CISO in a Fortune 50 company, my daily life consisted of vendors approaching me and saying, I have a solution with technology to your key problem. Never was that true, because I could find multiple technologies and come up with something alternatively to what was being presented. But my main challenges were outside of that. So what I want to give as a message here is to say, look at technology that can be a force multiplier, that does not require you to say, okay, now I have this technology, I'm going to need to build a team around it so that I can keep it running, operational, derive the best value from it. So that is typically what other vendors are doing. And our philosophy is to provide you with hyper automation, to give you a signal that is valid and strong. Because other solutions will tell you, we suspect something may be going on, and then you need to, again, devote analysis time. And when you look at the speed with which attacks are coming in, the sophistication of adversaries you're dealing with, you have to conclude today that cyber no longer is a human skill problem. So if you are going to inundate your staff with these weak signals, you're always going to be a day too late and a dollar short. The second problem that you will have eventually is that it's an ever expanding problem. And at some point, somebody in the executive suite or your CEO is going to say, okay, but every year you ask for more money, you ask for more people. When is it going to stop? When is it going to be sufficient? When I talk to CEOs, sometimes they sound exasperated and they say, I've doubled my investment over the last 5 years in security. We're a mining company. I'm not an IT company. When is this stopping? So I think we have to look back at what we are doing and critically assess, is this new technology that I'm bringing in, is it going to alleviate my concerns? We also discussed, is it going to materially impact, positively impact the user experience? Because that then allows the business to run faster, allows your go-to-market to be faster, allows your trust in your digital processes to increase, and that's going to actually make a competitive advantage for the company. So that's the message I would like to share. Look at the technology, look at the benefits it brings, but open that more widely and say, okay, are there tasks my team are doing right now that I can take away that actually don't really matter? In a lot of environments, you will find people are wrangling manually large quantities of data in Excel. I've always, well, not publicly, but referred to that as almost being an Excel slave. That doesn't add a lot of value to that person's career, probably doesn't add that much value to your organization, and you can improve the quality of the team members' lives and the speed of execution of your entire organization by making some tweaks. So yeah, that's the closing note I wanted to share with you all. Thank you for your time and your attention.
Such a great message, Roger. Thank you for sharing it with us all. For any further discussion, please do not hesitate to contact our team. In the next few days, our Legion will contact you to check whether you would like to set a dedicated meeting with a deeper demonstration of the wider Blackberry Silence offering. Thanks again to our panelists. I really appreciate you helped us in this event. And I hope I will have the opportunity to speak with you all soon to start a silence process. Aki, passing the mic to you.
Thank you very much, Metal, for helping to drive that conversation. Thank you to Samuel for that passionate session once again, and to all our panelists. Thank you, Jolene, for your taking the time. Thank you, Dennis, thank you, Patrice, thank you, Eric, as well as Roger for that, insightful contribution as well. Thank you to all our attendees. A big thank you to you for taking the time to be part of this session today. We will be hoping to have more opportunities to have you at future cybersecurity forum. And again, please, if you would like to get in touch directly with the Blackberry team, group team, please feel free to let us know, and we will be happy to connect you directly. Thank you all, and see you all. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
very
And
much.
don't forget, don't trust us, test us.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Stay
Bye.
safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.